The Saradha Chit Fund scam. Well, it wasn't actually a chit fund, but that's how the scam has been known over the years. This was a classic case where a group of companies, around 200 companies, which were all connected with each other, did something which is known as a collective investment scheme. What happened here is it was a classic Ponzi scheme, so to say. What happened here was this company and several companies in the group, they started accepting deposits from different members of the public and promised them exceedingly high returns. And the agents, the brokers who were making these deals possible, they were given commission as high as up to 20 to 25% for the investments that they were securing. In a classic Ponzi scheme, what happens is the initial investors and most investors in their initial investments actually do get very good returns. If you have invested 100, you will get 200 in a very short span of time, and that gives you that confidence. I'm sure all of you have seen the 21 din mein paisa double wala meme, and that is exactly what happened. Even the most educated of individuals fall prey to such scams. What happens in all these cases is people somehow end up disregarding their common sense and their basic intellect and somehow are led into believing that this is what is going to turn them millionaires overnight. The Saradha Chit Fund scam started on these lines, where the company started collecting funds from people and promised them very high returns, and in the initial phases these returns were actually delivered, which emboldened the company and which gave a lot of confidence to the investors that this is the right way to go about it. This is exactly what is going to make them millionaires overnight. And of course, we all know how that happened. There were a lot of big names that were involved in this scam. It could be politicians, film actors, television actors, politicians at the state level, politicians at the central government level, all of them were involved. Mamata Banerjee even set up a special tribunal for investigation into this matter. But the scam was not confined only to West Bengal. It spread like a tree spreading its roots far and deep. This scam extended to Assam, Odisha, Tripura and a lot of other states in eastern India. And the reason why so many people had started believing in the ability of the company to deliver returns, they hired prominent personalities and film stars to endorse and to promote this particular company and the schemes that they were running. People's confidence was only going up and up till the issue finally blew out of proportion and CBI had to enter the picture. Because of the interstate nature of the fraud and the number of people that were involved in this, it was not a state matter anymore. It was something that was pervasive all over eastern India and other parts of the country. And that became the focal point of discussion. How could something like this go undetected and untapped for so long? Were people not observing? What were the auditors doing? What were other prominent personalities who were associated with the scam? How come no one ever gave the slightest hint? Why was there no whistleblowing mechanism? Now, Sudipto Sen, the gentleman who was the mastermind behind all of this, he had a diary in which he mentioned details of all the prominent personalities to whom the payments were made. In some cases, there was also an allegation that certain prominent political personalities had arm twisted him into investing that money into certain unreliable schemes or projects that were not necessarily going to yield returns. And he in turn accused the politicians that because of their pressure, he ended up investing funds where he would have otherwise not done so. But the end result was that the common man, the investor, had suffered and so much money was completely wiped out of the market. Imagine an amount of investment entering into the Saradha group, and through its network of 200 subsidiaries and joint ventures and associate companies, that money simply getting lost, and nobody was any wiser as to where that 1 rupee which had entered the system had gone. So many companies and so many intercompany transactions that crores and crores and crores of rupees were completely wiped out. The politicians in West Bengal had started talking about it, and SEBI was already watching the company, and the the matter started going out of hand in 2012 when the company's cash inflows were lower than their cash outflows. A classic indication of the disease that is going to spread. The money that was laundered out of this entire enterprise had found its way into countries like places like Dubai, South Africa, and the nature of the fraud was all pervasive, which is why you needed a special task force to tackle the impact of this particular fraud. Before Jodipto Sen fled West Bengal, he wrote an 18-page letter where he mentioned names of all parties who, in his opinion, had coaxed him, forced him into doing things that he was not willing to do in the first place. Now, today, when you really think about it, a fraud like this happening right under the nose of SEBI and so many regulatory authorities raises questions about, were the regulatory bodies also hand in glove with the perpetrators of fraud? Why did it take so long to unearth something that would have been so apparent to regulators? And why was the Indian Aam Admi, why was the Indian common man lured into this? Time and time again, we have so many examples where people are lured into schemes which their common sense would very clearly tell them not to be a part of. So, investor education, I believe, in this country is lacking, and all of us need to collectively work towards raising that level of financial awareness so that none of us are defrauded in matters like these again. To get information on more such interesting incidents and scams, please follow our YouTube page. I would request you to like the video, comment on it, and share it with everyone.